All right, welcome back, everybody. It's MLB Now, home edition. We're now joined by David Laurila of Fangraphs to talk a little Hall of Fame. David, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us.
I am doing great, Brian. Very different circumstances here. We last talked in the lobby of the winter meetings where there were 1 million people elbow to elbow, and we cannot do that anymore.
Yeah, not for now. At some
Not
point,
for now.
but not for now. Now it's just us, virtually here in the comfort of our own homes. And we do have time to look at things in kind of a broad landscape. And this has been one of my favorite topics, and you just wrote about one subset of it. I'm kind of calling it the lost generation of center fielders. In the last decade, we've had Andrew Jones, Jim Edmonds, Bernie Williams, Kenny Lofton all go to the Hall of Fame ballot. And perception is a funny thing. I know you did a little poll, right, between Andrew Jones and Jim Edmonds in what fans thought or how they stacked them side by side. What did you find, David?
What I found was that just over 4,000 people voted, and it was 72% to Andrew Jones, maybe 72.6 possibly, which staggered me. My inclination actually would have been to not vote for Andrew Jones.
Why would you think that is? Like, why do you think Edmonds, who, again, it's interesting, when he first hit the Hall of Fame ballot, I really wondered, how is he going to be treated? I didn't know. I'm not a Cardinal fan. I looked at him. He also has a bunch of like 40 homer, 110 RBI seasons. He's got all the different things. He played in a whole bunch of postseasons. He did very well in the postseason. I thought he's going to be a pretty strong candidate, and he wasn't. So why do you think that result?
I think to a good extent, Brian, it's fame factor. Andrew Jones was a far more, quote unquote, famous player than Edmonds. Was he the greatest defensive center fielder ever? I mean, that's debatable. But that aside, Edmonds was such a better hitter than Jones, more than I think a lot of casual fans recognize.
I stack them up all the time. And, Edmonds, I think, depending on how you use the parameters, I think he's 14th overall in WAR among center fielders. He's around 12th or 13th in OPS plus. And the guys that are above him, a lot of like speedsters like Kenny Lofton or fielders like Andrew Jones, Richie Ashburn, Edmonds is a much better hitter, right? I mean, his OPS plus is 132. He was famous, though. Like, I'd almost dispute that. I mean, I know Jones was in the playoffs every year, but Edmonds was on the Cardinals. He's making diving catches for the Angels for years. He had big moments in the playoffs. If he had stayed on the ballot, do you think it would have changed? Because Jones has gone 7%, 7%, 19%, in the last year as the ballot cleared. Do you think Edmonds would be viewed differently? Because I do, had he just stayed on the ballot and in front of people.
That's a very hard question to answer. Maybe it's a matter of how many people were pushing to have him, get to votes to begin with, or they would going forward. You mentioned OPS plus. In my article, I use weighted runs created plus, and I ran a list of people who were his peers. Jim Edmonds had the same, weighted runs created plus as like George Brett and Wade Boggs, Tony Gwynn. Whereas Andrew Jones peers like Russell Branyan and Jeff Jenkins. I mean, that's a huge, huge difference. And I don't recall people ever talking about him with those types of comps when he was eligible, albeit briefly.
Yeah, no, you're right. He wasn't under the radar, though. I think we disagree a little bit on that. Let me throw this at you. Edmonds, Bernie Williams, Kenny Lofton, who would get your vote? Like, if they're in front of you on a Hall of Fame ballot, do you give them, any one of them, the Hall of Fame vote?
I would say yes on Lofton 1. Edmonds borderline 2, but probably yes. And Bernie maybe right below that bar.
Okay. See, I'm puzzled.
I am a big
Bernie.
Hall guy.
What's that?
I am a big Hall guy as opposed to a small Hall guy.
We're talking mainly not for Bernie. Bernie's a 50 WAR player, but just like the basic, B WAR. we're talking 60-win players here. This is not, I think people are thinking, and you got to be careful with that because, oh, you let everybody in the hall. This is what Mad Dog Russo yells at me. You want them all in. I'm like, no, how about guys who are in the top 10 or 15 in their position? And this is center field. And Edmonds is a 60-win player. Jones is a 60-win player. And Lofton is a 68-win player. Shouldn't these guys get into the Hall of Fame?
Well, no, like I said, I agree specifically on Lofton, but I look at WAR as a very interesting animal with the Hall of Fame. I just ran another poll that ended this morning. It got far fewer votes. We're talking in the hundreds rather than the thousands, but it was who was better, Kirby Puckett or Brian Giles? Not surprisingly, Puckett won the vote overwhelmingly, well over 70%. They have the identical baseball reference WAR, and with Fangraphs WAR, Giles has 8 or 10 wins more. Does that mean he was a better player or more deserving of the Hall of Fame than Kirby Puckett? I don't know if there's a right answer to that question.
Well, I mean, I use 4 as your basic framework, right? But then there's other parameters, and that Puckett had a shortened career. Puckett's more in that realm of like Dizzy Dean, an impact player. He was actually a great player. I thought the Hall made the right call, the voters, in voting him in, even though, right, if you stack up his totals, they're not great. One quick thing on Bernie. If you're the best hitter on a team that wins 4 titles and 6 pennants, actually the best hitter, maybe the best player, right there with Jeter, and that's quantifiable, why didn't that get more play? I don't understand that.
Maybe Yankee fatigue, that there were so many Yankees in the Hall of Fame, so many are well known. And Bernie was also a quieter player. He didn't really call attention to himself. He wasn't A-Rod. He wasn't Jeter. He just quietly did his job.
Well, that's a shame, isn't it, though? He was quietly the best player on the most dominant team of the last 60 years, going back to Mantle and Yogi. Anyway, I'll make my pitch for that. Hey, it's MLB Dream Bracket presented by DraftKings. Teams are going at it right now, David. I know Yankees and Indians are the big matchup today. You thought the Indians, when you look at the all-time rosters, I thought it was the Tigers. That was kind of my sleeper great team. You had the Indians. Explain.
They were my sleeper in part because they have more than great players. Tris Speaker, Napoleon Lajoie, Manny Ramirez. They have some of the greatest hitters all time. But on top of that, they have 5 Hall of Fame pitchers. I don't think any team in baseball can beat that. Hence me thinking that they're very quietly a phenomenal team. Better than a team with Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Joe DiMaggio. That would be an upset, certainly. Yeah. But they have more pitching than the Yankees do.
National League tomorrow, the big matchup is Pirates and Reds. Big Red Machine, obviously, with the Reds, and Pirates with some great old timers. Who do you like in that matchup?
I don't know that I really like, Brian, one team more than the other, but I would expect a lot of 12-11 games because those teams are the opposite of the Indians. They don't have pitching. I'm fairly certain there's not a Hall of Fame pitcher on either team. Tom Seaver, I guess, spent part of his career in Cincinnati. I guess I would lean Pittsburgh, but again, a lot of high-scoring games.
Yeah, a lot of fun to look at some of the old-time teams. The MLB Dream Bracket presented by DraftKings. You can head to DraftKings and compete for thousands of prizes for free, playing in daily pools throughout the tournament. You'll answer questions like what team will win, player performances, and much more. Does anybody beat the Yankees?
Well, if the Indians don't, my answer is no.
There you go. We'll have that answer. All right.
Maybe the Red Sox.
What's that?
Maybe it will be the Red Sox, Brian. That it has been proven that can be done.
Very rarely, but it has happened. Yes. David Laurila, Fangraphs. David, always good talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.